Welcome back to QuickSpeak, the English Learning Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about something that can be really tough,
Okay.
heartbreak. But instead of just dwelling on the sadness,
Yeah.
we're going to focus on how to heal and move on, and maybe even grow from the experience.
Yeah.
It can be helpful to remember that heartbreak isn't just one feeling, it's like a whole journey with different stages.
That's so true. It's not a simple thing to go through. Research actually shows that heartbreak activates the same areas of the brain as physical pain.
Wow, I never thought about it that way.
It's a very real and powerful experience, not just an emotional one.
So it's really like our brains are processing heartbreak as a real injury.
Exactly. And just like with a physical injury, healing takes time and there are different stages to the process.
Okay, so what are some of those stages?
Well, first, there's often that initial shock, like you can't believe it's happening. It can be hard to even accept that the relationship is over. Then the pain and grief start to set in, and that can feel really intense.
Yeah, it's like a wave of sadness washing over you.
And as you start to process those feelings, anger and resentment might surface. Maybe you're angry at your ex, or even at yourself for things you wish you had done differently.
Right. I think we've all been there at some point. It's natural to feel those emotions.
It is. And then there's often a stage of bargaining where you start thinking about all the what ifs and maybe even trying to figure out ways to get back together.
Oh, the bargaining stage. I remember that one all too well. It's like our brains are trying to find any possible way to undo what's happened.
Yes, exactly. But sometimes that can actually lead to feelings of depression and isolation as the reality of the situation sinks in.
That makes sense. It's like holding on to false hope can actually make things harder in the long run.
It can. So during this time, it's so important to reach out to friends and family for support. Having a strong support network is absolutely crucial during heartbreak. And eventually, you start to reach a stage of acceptance where you can acknowledge the situation and begin to heal.
So it's not about trying to forget the relationship ever happened, but more about coming to terms with it.
Yes, it's about accepting what is and allowing yourself to move forward. And that's when the real growth can start to happen. As you heal, you can start to reflect on the experience, learn from it, and ultimately emerge stronger and wiser. There's a stage of growth and renewal where you rediscover yourself in your own strength.
It's interesting because we often think of heartbreak as something negative, but you're describing it as an opportunity for growth.
I really believe it is. Of course, it's painful, but it can also be a catalyst for incredible personal growth. It forces you to look inward, confront your own patterns, and ultimately become a stronger version of yourself.
Okay, so we've talked about the stages of heartbreak, but what are some things we can actually do to start healing and moving on?
Well, one technique that I find really interesting is the idea of creating a personal goodbye ritual. Now, before we delve into that, I'm curious to hear from you, our listeners. Have any of you gone through these stages of heartbreak? What resonates with you the most? We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below.
Yes, definitely share your thoughts. We're all in this together. But going back to what you were saying about goodbye rituals, what exactly does that involve?
It can take many forms, but the idea is to create a tangible way to mark the end of the relationship and release any lingering emotions. It's all about finding a way to symbolize that closure for yourself.
So are we talking about something like literally saying goodbye to the relationship?
It can be that literal. Some people find it helpful to write a letter to their ex, pouring out all their thoughts and feelings, but then instead of sending it, they destroy it. This act of destruction can be very symbolic of letting go.
Oh, wow. I can see how that would be powerful. It's like a physical representation of releasing those emotions.
Exactly. It's about creating a concrete action. That signifies the end of that chapter. Now, others might prefer a cord-cutting visualization, where they imagine energetic cords connecting them to their ex, and then visualize cutting those cords. This is a technique used in various spiritual traditions to symbolize breaking free from past hurt and reclaiming your energy.
Okay, I've heard of that. It sounds pretty intense, but it's not like you're actually cutting physical cords, right?
No, it's a visualization exercise. Imagine this. You're holding a glowing sword, severing the invisible threads that tie you to past hurt. That's the power of visualization. It can really help you feel that sense of release.
I see what you mean. It's like a way to regain control over your own energy and emotions.
Precisely. Now, some people create their own personal ceremonies, maybe lighting a candle or releasing a balloon as a way to say goodbye and release any resentment or attachment. It's really a very personal process.
That makes sense. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to healing. So I guess the key takeaway here is that it's about finding what feels right for you and creating a symbolic act that helps you move forward.
That's exactly right.
Right.
There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's all about what resonates with you and helps you process those emotions in a healthy way.
This is fascinating. It's amazing how much our minds and bodies are connected, isn't it? Visualizing something so clearly can actually have a real impact on how we feel.
It's incredibly powerful. And, another important aspect of healing is the concept of forgiveness.
Forgiveness, that can be a really tough one, especially when we've been hurt deeply. It's like, how can you just let go of all that pain and anger?
It definitely isn't easy, but it's important to understand that forgiveness isn't about saying what happened was okay or that the other person didn't do anything wrong. It's not about condoning their actions at all.
So what is it about them? If it's not about them, who is it for?
It's really about freeing yourself. It's for you. Forgiveness is about letting go of those negative emotions that are weighing you down and preventing you from moving forward. Holding on to anger and resentment only hurts you in the long run.
That makes sense. It's like carrying around a heavy weight. It keeps you stuck in the past and prevents you from experiencing the joy and freedom of the present moment.
Yes, exactly. And remember, forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. We can forgive someone without condoning their actions or forgetting the pain they caused. It's about separating yourself from the hurt and moving forward with a sense of peace. But how do you actually do that? How do you begin to forgive someone who has hurt you so deeply? It feels almost impossible sometimes.
It's a process, and it takes time. There's no magic formula. But a good place to start is by acknowledging your feelings. Allow yourself to feel the hurt, the anger, the sadness. Don't try to suppress those emotions.
So you're saying it's okay to feel those negative emotions. I think a lot of people try to just bury them and pretend they're not there.
That's right. But pushing those feelings down only makes them stronger. So acknowledge them, feel them,
Yeah.
and then consciously choose to let go of them.
So it's a choice. We're not just waiting for the feelings to magically disappear. We're actively choosing to release them.
Exactly. You have more power over your emotions than you might realize. And remember, forgiveness can be incredibly liberating. It allows you to break free from the past and embrace a brighter future. Okay, that makes sense. So forgiveness is about freeing ourselves from the pain of the past. But what about the present? How do we take care of ourselves in the midst of all this heartache? I think a lot of people neglect their own needs when they're going through a breakup.
You're absolutely right. Self-care is not selfish. It's essential. When we're going through something difficult, it's so easy to neglect our own needs. But that only makes things harder in the long run. So it's crucial to make self-care a priority.
What are some practical self-care tips that our listeners can implement? What can they actually do to start taking better care of themselves?
Well, first and foremost, make sure you're getting enough sleep. I know it sounds basic, but sleep is so crucial for both our physical and mental health, and it's especially important when we're dealing with stress and emotional turmoil.
Sleep is like hitting the reset button for our minds and bodies, wouldn't you say?
Exactly. And pay attention to your diet as well. Make sure you're eating nutritious foods that provide your body with the energy and nutrients it needs to heal. I know it's tempting to reach for comfort foods when we're feeling down, but those often leave us feeling sluggish and even more emotionally drained.
It's like we're trying to soothe our emotions with food, but it ends up having the opposite effect.
Right. And don't forget about hydration. Staying hydrated is essential for overall health and well-being, and it can also help with mood regulation.
So we've got sleep, nutrition, and hydration, all the basics covered. What else can we do to nurture ourselves during this time? What are some other things that might help us feel better emotionally?
Exercise is fantastic for boosting your mood, even if you don't feel like it. Getting your body moving can really help. It reduces stress and releases endorphins, which have mood-boosting effects.
I know it's hard to find the motivation to exercise when you're feeling down, but even a short walk in nature can make a world of difference.
Absolutely. And it's so important to find activities that bring you joy and help you relax. Maybe it's reading, listening to music, spending time in nature, or practicing mindfulness. Whatever it is, make time for things that make you feel good.
It's like giving yourself permission to enjoy life again, even amidst the heartache. It's a reminder that there's still beauty and joy to be found, even when things are tough.
Exactly. And speaking of finding support, let's talk about the importance of leaning on your support network during this time. Friends and family can be such a lifeline during heartbreak.
They can. They offer a listening ear, a shoulder to cry on, and just practical support to help you get through the day.
Yes, and don't be afraid to reach out to those you trust and let them know what you're going through. Sometimes just talking about it can make a world of difference. It helps us process our emotions and feel less alone. Your loved ones can also provide practical support, like helping with errands, cooking meals, or simply being there to keep you company.
It's like having a team of cheerleaders in your corner. reminding you of your strength and worth.
That's a great way to put it. And they can also offer a different perspective, helping you see the situation more clearly and reminding you that you're not alone in this war.
Now, we've been focusing a lot on the internal work of healing, but I think it's also important to acknowledge the external changes that might be necessary after a breakup. For example, rediscovering your identity might involve redefining your living space, or even your social circle.
That's a great point. After a breakup, it's natural to reassess different aspects of your life, including your environment and your relationships.
If you were living with your partner, you might find that certain objects or spaces hold painful memories. It can be really helpful to declutter and rearrange your surroundings to create a fresh start.
It's like symbolically clearing out the old energy to make space for the new.
And similarly, your social life might need some adjustments. You might find that some friendships were more closely tied to the relationship, and that those dynamics have shifted.
It's natural for friendships to evolve over time, and a breakup can sometimes accelerate that process.
It's a good opportunity to reconnect with old friends, cultivate new connections, and build a support system that aligns with your current needs and values.
It's all about creating a life that feels authentic and fulfilling to you, independent of the relationship that has ended.
And this process of rediscovering yourself can be incredibly empowering. It's a chance to reconnect with your passions, explore new interests, and set goals that reflect your true desires.
It's a time for growth, self-discovery, and creating a life that you truly love.
This has been such an insightful conversation. Before we move on to our final thoughts, I'd love to hear from you, our listeners. How have you navigated the process of rediscovering yourself after a significant change in your life?
We encourage you to share your experiences and insights in the comments below.
All right, let's move into the final part of our conversation, where we'll wrap up with some key takeaways and inspiring thoughts for moving forward.
Sounds great. Let's dive in.
So as we wrap up our conversation about healing and moving forward after heartbreak, I think it's important to reiterate that this is a journey, not a race.
Absolutely. There's no set timeline for healing, and everyone's experience is unique. Some days will be easier than others, and that's perfectly normal.
It's like riding a wave. There will be ups and downs, but eventually the waters will come.
That's a beautiful analogy, and remember, it's okay to ask for help along the way. Whether it's from friends, family, or a therapist, having a support system can make all the difference.
It's a reminder that we don't have to go through this alone. There are people who care about us and want to help us heal.
And as you move through this process, remember to be kind to yourself. Practice self-compassion and acknowledge that you're doing the best you can.
It's easy to be self-critical during times of heartbreak, but it's important to remember that we deserve our own love and support, just as much as anyone else.
And as you heal, you might find that you emerge from this experience stronger and wiser than before. Heartbreak, while painful, can be a catalyst for incredible personal growth.
It's like the saying goes, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Exactly. You might discover newfound resilience, a deeper understanding of yourself, and a clearer vision of what you want in life.
It's a chance to rebuild your life on your own terms, with a newfound sense of self-awareness and purpose.
And remember, the end of one chapter doesn't mean the end of the book. It simply means it's time to turn the page and start writing a new one.
That's such a hopeful thought. And as we close our conversation, I want to leave our listeners with this question. What is one small act of self-care that you can do for yourself today?
It could be something as simple as taking a few minutes to meditate, enjoying a warm bath, or calling a friend to chat.
Whatever it is, make a conscious effort to nurture yourself and honor your healing journey. And remember, you are worthy of love, happiness, and a bright future.
We hope this conversation has provided you with some valuable insights and tools to help you navigate the ups and downs of heartbreak.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to our channel and leave us a comment below with your takeaways. Until next time, take care of yourselves and keep those English skills sharp. We'll be back soon with more deep dives into fascinating topics.